whilst I was going through this process of reflecting on things. He saw me in a bit of a state, and he said, "Are you okay? You look a bit down." And I just said to him, just casually, I just said, "Look, I've been thinking recently, is there more to life than what I used to believe?" And his eyes lit up when I said this. And he said, "Do you mean, does God exist?" And I didn't mean does God exist, but he said, "Do you mean," and I thought, well, I said to him, "Well, not really, but I'm willing to discuss it." And we started chatting about basically, where did I come from? Why am I here? And he said, this was the question that was supposed to be, where do you think you came from? I thought, easy, I came from my mum and my dad. He said, okay, where did they come from? My grandma and my granddad, where did they come from? Okay, we came from the monkeys. This is what I was thinking at the time. We came from monkeys, evolution, so on and so forth. Now I thought, okay, I'll just throw them with the evolution argument. They didn't even entertain the evolution discussion. They said, okay, let's assume, for argument's sake, that even if there was such a thing as evolution, what starts that? The Big Bang starts that. Okay, what starts that? Now, the subject of where everything came from, what started the universe and creation, they don't really have an answer for that. For years and years and years they said it was the Big Bang that started it. But even now, today, scientists are saying themselves, admitting that, look, an explosion, a bang, is a reaction to something else. It's a reaction. So something has to have come before. Therefore, that wasn't the start. There was something prior to that. So I went away and I started looking into this. And the principal explanation they use, that they have various ones, and they try to use science to answer it, is that, look, matter collides with antimatter, and you have an explosion, and that's the Big Bang. And because matter is 1 and antimatter is 0, the universe came from nothing, because 1 times 0 is nothing. Now I saw that and I thought, right, look, that's a very clever bit of science. That's really clever, whoever thought of that. But then what struck me is that, look, brothers, if we were to go outside now, we'd be crazy to do it because it's snowing, but if we were to go outside now and say, right, let's have a game of football, would we sit around and say, right, look, the ball goes into the net once, that's 1 goal, it goes into the net twice, that's 2 goals, if you tackle him and break his leg, that's a foul, it's a red card, offside, none of us really know what that is, but offside, would we start going through the rules and explaining them? No, we wouldn't. Why? Because we already know them. We already know the rules for football. Now, if matter collides with antimatter and then there's a Big Bang and that creates the universe, what that means is that the rules of the universe were in place before the universe existed, which is impossible. Who wrote the rules? They have to have been decided by something else. So on that premise, you understand that, look, this can't have been the beginning, there has to be something prior to that. And you can keep going and going and going, that, look, whatever created this thing, created by this thing, created by and you just go on and on and on, until you come to a realization that, look, whatever came at the beginning, whatever started it all, by definition can't have been created by something else. Because if it was, then it wasn't the start. So the premise that you take that argument on then is that, look, if this thing that came at the beginning wasn't created by anything else, there are only 2 explanations. Number 1, it created itself, which is ridiculous. You can't decide to create yourself if you don't exist. And just like if you're asleep, you can't decide, right, I'm going to wake up now. It's not possible. You're not in control. So you can't create yourself, which means there's only one possible explanation. This thing was there all along. It didn't have another creator. It didn't create itself. The only explanation is that it was always there. No beginning, no end. So when you realize this, you think, okay, it was there all along. There's a few things you can work out about that. If it's there all along, that means it never got old. It doesn't get hungry. It has no weakness or flaw. Remember, I'm not calling it God at this point. I'm just saying there's a something out there. It doesn't have any weaknesses. It doesn't get old. If the universe is based on rules, this thing came first, which means it obeyed no other rule. It decided to create everything else. It has a will of its own, intelligence. Not only that, but if it's there all along, then it's infinite. It has no bounds. There can't be more than one of it. Because if you say that there's 2 infinite things, then they can only be as big as each other. There's a limit on that. So there can only possibly be 1. So now, okay, 1, it's flawless, it's infinite, it's got a will of its own, it created everything. Kind of sounds like God now.
दीन की बात फैलाना सदक़े जारिया है। सवाब की नीयत से वीडियो को शेयर जरूर कीजिए। जज़ाकल्लाह।